Welcome, track and field fans. Pat yourself on the back. Just by being on this show, you are one of the greatest track and field fans on planet Earth. This is Robert Johnson welcoming you to the Let'sRun.com special live edition of the Let'sRun.com Track Talk podcast, where we'll break down the next to last regular Diamond League meet of the year. Normally,
third to last. We got a meet on Zurich next week.
Next to last regular season meet.
Okay.
Normally, our Friday podcast is just for our supporters club members, but since we're doing this one live, you can catch it live. But if you want to get this as a podcast, join the supporters club today. Let'sRun.com/subscribe. By the way, if you haven't heard the news, we're making I Am the Pacemaker t-shirts. You sign up today, enter the code GOAT50. When you submit your free t-shirt, you can get the I Am the Pacemaker t-shirt. We had a lot of pre-orders. I haven't even put it up on the website. Get that today. I think we're only going to be offering that for about a week, and it's going to be a supporters club exclusive. Let'sRun.com/subscribe. Anyways, the meet today, there was talk beforehand this morning. John called me. Did you hear the pace lights? World record pace in the men's 5,000 are right at it. Could we have a world record? We almost had a world record, but it was not in the men's 5,000. It was in the women's steeplechase. Winford Yavi, what a race. 8:44.39. She misses it by 0.07. In the men's steeplechase, Hagos G has won it in 12:51.07 as the top six men have all run 12:51. Faith Kipyegon, they went out on world record pace. They slowed down with 200 meters to go. Three women were right on her shoulder. Would she be vulnerable? No problem. She destroyed everybody in the span of what? We'll talk about that, how she just laid waste to this field. 3:52. Other action, let's say Tebogo has won an absolutely stacked 100. I think everybody was here, right? Except for Noah Lyles and Kashane Thompson.
Oh, except for the two guys who went 1-2 at the Olympics. So, hey, yeah, man, that's kind of a big missing duo.
Well, yesterday's news, those guys. Celebrates early. Really fun race. Ryan Krauser, excellent as usual. He's gone all six throws over 22 meters. I've spent about half the meet to figure out. I have the stat here to tell you how rare that is. And there were some, other interesting races. Kira Nugent, world leader in the women's 100 hurdles. I can't even remember all the races. We'll break it down for you. Plus, we may talk, since it is Friday, we have other things we could talk about. A top NCAA track and field athlete by the name of Parves Khan, the University of Florida, the SEC champion in the mile and the 1500. He has tested positive for EPO. How ramping is doping in the NCAA? And will this hurt Parker Valby, her teammate at Florida, as she tries to get a contract? Also, Africa's 38-year domination of the distance events at the World Under 20, aka World Juniors, has snapped. For the first time in history, a man not born in Africa has won a flat distance event at World Juniors. We'll tell you about Norway's Andreas Field Halvorsen, probably on this show as well. John, thanks for joining us. Yet again, we're not joined by Weldon Johnson. It's official, folks. I told you on Tuesday, he's joined the Silicon Valley Elite. His wife has taken a wonderful job there. He has followed her out there, taken the two kids, and I think he's just going to act like a Silicon Valley overlord, John, just sort of manage the computers and maybe someday just let us know we're all fired. I don't know what's going on.
I hope not. I guess we'll see. I'm giving him some leeway here because he's moving 3,000 miles across the country with two young daughters. So I can understand if he's got other things managing right now, but he better be back for that Zurich 1500 next week with Hawker, Nagoose, Kerr, and Ingebrigtsen. He better be back for the Diamond League final the week after that. But yeah, we'll hold down the fort tonight. I guess, I want to go to a comment here from Rose Runner in the chat. And I kind of agree with it. As a distance fan, the 100 meters was the race of the meet. And I know we almost saw a world record in the women's steeplechase, but that 100 was fun as hell. Like, Letsilde Tebogo, I kind of forgot. This guy, I didn't forget how good he is, but he's asked at the Olympics, could you be the next face of the sport? And he's been quite humble about that sort of thing and saying, no, Noah's the guy. Look what he's done for the sport. But I kind of forgot, this guy's a character as well. Do we remember at World Juniors 2 years ago in Colombia where he just looks over and starts celebrating and like pointing the guy in the next lane with 20 meters to go? I saw this race tonight where he wins in Rome. just as he's passing Christian Coleman, that's when he starts to celebrate. Like, Coleman got a great start, had a nice gap on the field. Tebogo was the only one close to him. Tebogo looks over at 20 meters to go, seeing, how close am I to everyone. And as soon as he sees it's Coleman, he's the only one near him. He just starts celebrates because he knows he's going to be holding on better than Coleman. It was awesome. It was really fun to see. He was, doing a little gesture to the crowd before the race and afterwards. I'm like, this guy's got some personality. Like, he's got some showmanship in him. So it's going to be fun. It's fun having Tebogo with his confidence in the Olympic title. Like, when you win an Olympic gold medal, you roll into these meets, and he just has kept winning. He won twice last week on the circuit as well. His confidence is sky high, but it's going to be really fun to have that guy at the top of the sport for the next few years, the next Olympic cycle.
Correct. John, by the way, how do I sound? Some people thought you sounded much louder than me.
You sound louder now, so hopefully we're more even.
Okay. By the way, if you're a Supporters Club member, everything will be audioed out in post-production, evened out. I enjoyed the 100. I mean, I was just like, wow, like, look at all these names and just the drama. And Jacobs is the Italian. By the way, he was terrible at last in the race. But I did think it was, and I love Tebogo's personality. He's just relaxed. First of all, he's won everything. He didn't call it a season. He's kept racing. But he's just like got a chill vibe to himself. The celebrations at World Juniors, like, it was, when he was winning the 100 every year, it was like way early. I was kind of like, is he faking this? I feel like everyone now feels like they've got to celebrate early. But yeah, today it was amazing. Like, Coleman, he's just kind of like, it's unfortunate it's not an 80-meter race for him. He would be very good at that. But if you just know he's going to get walked down, it's kind of like Fred Curley. It's kind of like Grant Holloway in the last 20 meters of the 110 hurdles. The difference is Coleman's not that far ahead normally. So, yeah, he looked over there. I was like, he's celebrating before he's even technically ahead. But one was clearly going in one direction, was going in the other direction. But I did think that Tim Hutchings had this wrong. I don't think that celebration slows you down very much. He's like, oh, it definitely would have been a world lead. What's the world lead?
9:79. Yeah,
I don't think so.
He would have gotten that. Because he ran 9:87 tonight to beat Coleman. It was a good run for Coleman, by the way. I mean, credit to him keeping his season going. He didn't make the Olympic team, and then he comes over. And I guess maybe, well, he ran the relay in Paris, but he had a good run. And Curley, who won last week, is 9:95 for third. But the one guy who was missing. So obviously, Lyles isn't there, the Olympic champion. Neither is Kashane Thompson. I'm looking at Kashane Thompson. Is it just the injuries again? Because that was his whole thing last year. He only ran one round of the Jamaican Championships because he had these shin injuries. And then his coach, Stephen Francis, says, oh, they found some miracle fix and they go to the injuries fix this year. But he only ran the Jamaican Championships basically before the Olympic. He ran that and the one meet, the Goulier Memorial in Hungary. He had a DNF earlier the year where he pulled up lame midway through, but somehow he put together 982, 984, and 977 at the Jamaican champs, and then 10 flat, 980, 979 at the Olympics. He's run 3 great rounds in both of them, but outside of those 2 championships, the Jamaican trials and the Olympics, he's completed 100-meter race this year. So what is it with this guy? Is it just his injuries really are that bad? They keep popping up. It's just very, I don't know. It's kind of weird that you can put it together so well for those 2 championships and essentially not be available to race the entire rest of the year.
Well, I like the plan that they have because to me, it shows that, I don't know, you might want to risk it in the Olympics or the Jamaican Championships, but you certainly don't want to risk having any injury. I mean, my hamstring still hurts from 20 years ago. So I'm fine with him being extra cautious, whatever. The encouraging thing from him that I saw was, it said that I read in one of these articles, he said, like, oh, I plan on running the 200 in the future. I like the event. So he kind of was like, was doing a shot at Noah Lyles. I guess that would be good news for Michael Johnson's Grand Slam track league, because if you don't run 2 events, they don't really have, a place for you. So that was the men's 100 today. All right, let's talk about distance races and the women's steeple. It was. They said they were going for the meet record, which is like 8:52, but then they want to go out 2:54. The world record's 8:44, by the way, in case you don't know. Well, I don't actually. I should probably say the hundreds, John, since we were hundreds off.
8:44.32 is the world record by Beatrice Chepkoech,
and she ran 8:44.39. And they said they wanted to go 2:54, and that's what they hit. And that's not really that fast because you don't have the water jump on the first lap, so you're actually probably a little bit behind world record pace at that. And then I forgot what 2K was, but it was certainly clear that they could run, the world record.
They slowed down. They ran 2:54 for the second K, but it's still in the ballpark. But then what happened?
Because you're not running that fast, and as long as you don't slow down too much, generally your last lap is pretty good in the steeple. So you're 2/3 of the way. Just don't blow it over the next 600, and you're going to kick it in the last lap. But with 800 to go, they needed 2:69s. But then on the penultimate, and by the way, so Parves Khan, the 2021 Olympic champion, and Yave, the 2024 Olympic champion, are the only two up there. Chimitai is pushing the pace the whole way. And the whole time I was thinking, John, about a Ugandan journalist friend, I wish I knew his name, in the mix zone. He was telling us, like, Chimitai wants the world record. She thinks she's in great shape. He was telling us this in Tokyo, and we almost told our betting guy, hey, might be worth putting some money down on the world record attempt here. So I was like, okay, she's going for this. And it's also just fun to watch Chimitai race. She has no steeple form whatsoever. She just pulls her legs back and hurdles all the hurdles the same, including the water jump. Doesn't even stop on the water jump. I think, and but they slow down a lot in the second lap and run like next penultimate lap and run like a 72. So they need like a 65 flat basically to do it. And the announcers are kind of like, okay,
yeah, they're just saying it's done. Like I was like, oh, it's just about the race, and they're acting like it wasn't a record attempt at all anymore. And then suddenly the home straight, Chimitai is kind of they're actually together on the final water jump. And then Yavi puts her foot down the last straight, and she rips it coming off that final barrier. I mean, I think she might have caught sight of the clock or something and realized how close she was, because she was absolutely going crazy off that last barrier and missed it by 700ths.
Sorry, John, I wasn't listening. I got a call from the wife. Second day of school pickup. First grade. I was afraid someone forgot to pick up the child. She's picked up the child. I'm not sure what you just said, John. I was worried that my son was...
I just explained the final 200 meters of the race, but I'm glad your son is okay.
What was the final 200 split? Because I was just looking at the time, and I'm like, they need to have me, John. It should be official. They should fly to me all these meets, or at least just let me watch it on a live feed, and I can yell to the announcers like, hello, there might be a world record. I mean, some of the times they're just missing the most obvious things. Like, if the green light's on world record pace and they're ahead of that, you might want to mention the world record. Here I was like, okay, there's only 100 meters to go, and she's really sprinting. But her sprint from the final barrier to the finish line was amazing. So she just missed it by 0.07. And, I was like, oh, is she going to be pissed? I think an American might be pissed thinking of all the money they missed out on. But no, look at this. She was celebrating. I got to take off that.
In the moment, she was celebrating, Robert. But then I looked at her quotes afterwards. And if you go to the flash quotes, she actually maybe she had a few minutes to think about it and realized that she only missed it by 700ths. But this is what Yavi said. She said, I looked at the time after the race and I went, oh no, I was really expecting that record and I was going for it. I definitely feel I should break it and I believe it will happen. I need to work even harder and I'm planning to have another go at it before the end of the season. So I think she should be very proud. I mean, obviously when you when you almost break the world record, you're number 2 all time. It's a fantastic performance, and it was a great run by Chimitai as well. Credit to her, because she was kind of the de facto pacemaker. She holds on and runs 8:48.03. That's a 5-second PB, just the third woman ever under 8:50. But I was looking at this, if I was Yavi, I'm like, oh, where could I have picked up that extra tenth of a second? And I do feel like on the second to last lap, Chimitai starts slowing down. I think Yavi, obviously she's tired at that point, but I think she still had a bit of run left in her. And maybe if she takes the lead, then she's able to push it a little bit further out. The other thing was her last barrier of the race. She stepped it quite badly and didn't hurdle it that well. So that's obviously going to be tough. Everyone's tired at that point, but those are the 2 points where I look like, oh, maybe if she just done that one thing differently. But no, a really, really fantastic run by both of them.
And I don't know enough about the bonuses and the shoe contracts and all that, but I think if they go for it better, particularly in a little bit cooler weather, it was like 80, 81 degrees today, I think they could do it. Now, the steeple's short enough. You're landing in water. I don't think the heat is too much of a factor. I've always said the steeple's kind of the one distance event. It almost doesn't matter what the weather is. It can be windy, it can be cold, it can be hot, and you can still run a pretty good time. But we're talking about world records, so ideal conditions. You would have it a little bit cooler. But I was thinking, I think either one of these women could get it, but Yavi has the perfect. I mean, it's rare that you get a rabbit for like 2,800 meters in a race at world record pace. So they're perfectly suited for this, and she doesn't have a good kick. But I'm like, okay, if I'm Chimitai, they're both Nike athletes, so maybe Nike wants one to beat the other. But if I was Chimitai's agents, I might set it up somewhere else. Like I would go to Stanford, get with Jesse Williams, sound running, do it in ideal conditions, and I think she could do it instead of end up serving as an unofficial rabbit. Now, or maybe you work out something with Yavi and say, hey, I'm going to push the pace, but if you get the record, I want 25K or something. Because I do think if they go for it again later in the year, they could do this. And, the comment that John Kellogg had after this race was, we've been wondering, and actually behind them, if you look at the results, it was a pretty good day for the Americans. I mean, remember going into Worlds, Val Constantine, the U.S. champion, was the number 3 seed in the world. Is that right, John? Or was it number 2 at 9:03 in the world?
Number 3 going into the Olympics. She ran 9:04.92. This was her best time in league result, her second fastest time ever. And then 6th place, Gabby Jennings, 9:07.7. Almost a more than 4-second PB. 6th place for her. Courtney Wayman was the 3rd American, 9th place, 9:14. Not as great for her. But yeah, Constantine and Jennings, you couldn't see them for most of the race because the top 2 were running world record pace, but they did equip themselves quite well.
But the point I was trying to make was when it ended, John, we've been wondering, like, this women's steeple is not that deep an event. So, we put Constantine's medal chances at like 25%, and then she ended up getting last in the final. And today you're like 9:04, she's not even in the picture, but she is 4th. So it's, if 1 or 2 top people bomb or terrible, I could see how she could medal. But I've been wondering, like, is this an event that's going to just go like, if you're not running 8:55, you don't really have a chance. And that certainly seems to be the case for the win nowadays. But, John Kellogg and I were talking like how much lower we think this can go. And we think it can be a lot lower. I mean, John, what is like a 14 flat, 29 flat equivalent to in the steeplechase? Well, he works on that. I guess I should just think about what my top Cornell runners were running. Actually, it wasn't that much faster. They were right around those times, running around 8:40 in the steeple, actually. So, but I think it's faster than this 8. Yeah. So John thinks, like if you're basically a 14 flat, 29 flat guy, you're going to run, which is where the world records are. Now, maybe these runners aren't as good as the flat world record holders. You're going to run around 8:41, which is pretty much, these are almost, this is crazy to think that the top runners I was coaching at Cornell were running somewhere. But these women's barriers are a lot lower, and relatively lower. So 8:35.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to Kipyegon or Chibet type runner in this event, maybe. Now, obviously, those, or someone like Hassan in her prime, those women don't always gravitate to the steeplechase. But yeah, I do think we could be in a world a few years from now where it's sub 8:40. I mean, look at Yavi's only 24, so I think she could get there. Maybe they get the world record in Brussels in a couple weeks.
All right, let's talk about the women's. Since we're talking women's running, then we'll go back to the men's 5,000. Women's 1,500, that they hilariously said this was a meet record attempt, and the meet record's like Kipyegon set the world record in this meet last year, 3:49.1 something.
Now it's 3:49.04 is the world record. But
so it would suck if they actually got the meet record, but not the world record. And historically, she's kind of gone out in like 2:04. And the rabbit did hit 204, but it was not done correctly. It was like 59.9 and then 6.
59.97, then 64 like 1. So yeah,
Now,
did not do
when
it.
I was watching this live, I was defending, I think it was Winnie Yanyoni that was rabbiting.
Winnie Nanyondo of Uganda, yes.
And when I watched the first 100, I was kind of defending her because I was like, all the women went out so hard. She was way ahead of even the blue lights, which is ahead of the pacing lights. And I'm like, what else is she supposed to do? Like, these women should back off and let kind of just, okay, we're going for the world record. Let's just let, we'll let the rabbit get up there. We'll let Faith get in second. We'll let Jessica Hall and the Ethiopians get in third, fourth, and fifth. Instead, everybody pushed up. And the rabbit and Faith was way out there and kind of, in Hall were like running around extra distance on the turn. But I then watched it 3 more times on tape delay because I was like, I'm not going to criticize her because normally I rate like basically 60, 64. I watched it again though, and she was inexperienced. So like she rabbited before. This is what Tim Hutchings was talking about. Yeah, she was ahead of the light the first 100, but then she kind of still gapped the field by like 3 or 4 meters in the turn. She should have just slowed it down. Now, John's like, when you go out super hard the first 100, you don't want to just slam on the brakes. And it's kind of hard. That's the problem with these things is like, it's the first 200's too fast, and then you slow it down. It's hard to get back in the right rhythm. But that's where the lights help. But I really think they should have, like, if I was this meet director, I would just be like screaming at the girls at the start. Like, everybody, let's let them go. And it would have been interesting to me. The rabbit and Kipyegon were on the outside, and we've seen that in the past at the Diamond Leagues. But when Jakob ran recently, one of the Diamond Leagues this year, he was in lane 1, and I'm like, wow, is he going to get just boxed in? But everyone just let him have it go. He ran right up lane 1. Nobody got in his way because it was kind of understood. Like, look, if we get in his way, we're screwed. We need him up there to push the pace when the rabbit stops. So I do think that the pacing was off, but it was kind of interesting to me to see, okay, like maybe she can run way faster if she goes out hard. But she was off of it sort of at 800. They were 204. Then they ran another 64. And, 300 meters to go. Hull's right there. 2 or 3 Ethiopians are right there. And I say to John Kellogg, I'm like, Kipyegon's going to blast her, right? But you could tell Hull was thinking, okay, I'm going to try to take her down. And 200 meters to go. Like I thought, well, maybe the only way Kipyegon's going to be beat if she really fades or if there's something off. And then 200 meters to go, she looked full of run. And I don't know when it was. Around about 150, 140 meters to go, it was like somebody hit turbo, John. Like they switched the camera angle, and she's got like a 20-meter lead. It was amazing. The gap that she put on this field between 150 and 80 meters was just amazing.
Yeah, this is why she's the GOAT. She closed in 29.2. Maybe could have been faster if she was pushed, but yeah, you usually a race that close, with 200 meters to go, you don't end up winning by more than a full second, which is what Kipyegon did. She won in 3:52.89. Feroini Hailu, the world indoor champ, was second in 3:54.16. And Burka Hailom, who totally bombed at the Olympics, beats out Jessica, like didn't even make the semifinals, right? She beats Jessica Hall and gets third in 3:54.79.
No, she made the semis in the repechage round, John. Remember?
Oh, through the repechage, but she didn't make she didn't make the final.
No,
she beat Jessica Hall, the silver medalist at the Olympics, 3:54.79 and 3:54.98. But yeah, Kipyegon, she hasn't lost a 1500 since June 2021. And I was looking at it, I'm like, 300 to go. I'm like, all right. They are still there, but this is why she's so good, is she can win any style of race. She can win by hammering it from the front. She can win by going out fast, then backing off, and then attacking again. She can win in a slow tactical race. She's just got the full toolkit. This is why she's the greatest miler in women's history by far. And this one, 3:52 by her standards, that's not even that fast these days. 3:52.89 because she's able to hammer that last 200. But yeah, another win for Faith Kipyegon, just stack it on the pile of victories she's registered in this distance.
now Yeah, I was just, by the way, I mean, I told Ethiopia to put Fraiwane Hailu on the team, right? That was the one I was irate about, right, John?
I don't know, Robert. You got to tell me your own opinions. I
Well,
can't
you
tell
win
what
World
you know.
Indoors, you finish first or second. I mean, let's look at Fraiwane Hailu's results this year. This is the woman that won World Indoors. She did not compete in the Olympics. So she wins World Indoors. She's, by the way, well, I guess maybe they were upset that she's finished fourth in 2021, fourth in 2022. But anyways, yeah.
Well, she wasn't put on the team because her season's best was not among the top 3. Sagai wanted to triple, and there were also some reports that there was some conflict, I think, between her camp and Sagai's camp. And that was one of the reasons she was left off the team. But if you look at her results, she had a bad opener in Jarman, which was only about 6 or 7 weeks after she won World Indoors. She was 358, fifth
right,
place
but
there.
just
Since
let me.
then, first Doha, second in LA Grand Prix, 355, first in Big Gosh, 358, and then since the Olympics, second in Salace here on Sunday, 357, and now second in Rome, 354.
Yeah, I mean, basically every single race she's run this year except for one, she's been first or second, and that's counting World Indoors. That's counting 1, 2, 3, 4 Diamond Leagues. Now, only 2 of those Diamond Leagues were beforehand. And just because, so basically she doesn't make the Olympic team because she bombed a race on April 20th. It just shows you how dumb the Ethiopian selection process is. Now, maybe she wouldn't have medaled because, Derebi Woteji, who was silver last year, ended up fourth this year, was very competitive. I do think sort of the Ethiopians just aren't good at like running really tactical races and just saving energy and kicking at the end and trying to get second or third. I do think these runners that are sort of used to the NCAA system are better at that. But just the Ethiopia, like you've got to have a trials or let me coach these women, one or the other. Anyways, so that was the women's 1500. There was, John, I don't know if you noticed this. It's just, it's nowadays you run 356, 358, and you're not even relevant, really. It's kind of crazy. But there were a couple 359s that got my attention. Nadia Barakleti, the 10,000 meter silver medalist, right, John?
Yes.
This shows you, how talented these runners are, how good they are. I mean, I guess some people are suspicious because her father did test positive for drugs at one point in his career, and he's her coach. But, you're a 10,000 meter runner, and she breaks 359. Now, we've seen, obviously, Safana San and Litzen that can close at 10,000 and 359. But I'm just talking about the Americans that, want to be competitive in the 5 and the 10. In the years to come, Parker Valby, etc., you need to be able to break 4 for 1,500 meters.
Elise Cranny won the U.S. title last year in the 10,000 and it ran 357 this year. I mean, I'm looking at Barakleti. I'm like, I kind of thought she might run even faster than this, given that she was fourth in the 5K and second in the 10K and was closing like a maniac in both of those races. I would have thought maybe she could run even a little faster than 359. But it is crazy how, we have some good athletes competing right now. Sure, like I said, Kipyegon's the GOAT, but also shoes have just subtracted 3 seconds or something from everyone's time in this race. Because I'm watching this race, and midway through, Barakleti was like in last or second to last. I'm like, what the hell is she doing back there? Is she just totally bombing? It's like, no, the lead women went out in sub 60. So it's just a really fast pace, and she did get smoked by a lot of the 1,500 specialists, but 359, I wouldn't look at it and say like that was a terrible run or anything. It's just like 359 will get you 11th in a Diamond League in the year 2024 and 6 seconds behind the win. That's where the event is at.
Yep. Someone in the chat wants to know where all the Americans were. They shut their season down. I mean, it's disappointing. We're not seeing like a Sinclair Johnson who hasn't raced since finishing fourth in the trial. I mean, Sinclair Johnson, let's not forget, it's not like she ran bad at the trials. 356.75. If I was Pete Julian, the coach, I certainly want her to keep racing so I can try to keep my job. But one thing to consider here is it may not be easy to get into these races. I mean, I was kind of mad when the rabbits went out so far. Maybe they had too many people. I mean, they had 15 people. How many more people do you want them to put in the 1500? So, and when you look at this field, you've got, a lot of very fast women. You've got 2 Italians that haven't broken 4, but before today, but I guess maybe she could have been over. And there's 1 or 2 people who she's run faster than this year. I mean, Sarah Healy of Ireland's run 3:57. So Vissa. I mean, maybe she could have gotten this race if she wanted to, but it also might be hard to be motivated. I think you should do it to be training, but not know what you're going to get into. I guess you could always run Fifth Avenue Mile if you can't get into these races. But if you're not on the Diamond League circuit, there's really no other meets that really. I guess you could run, as a woman, you could run mixed gender races with guys and college kids and stuff, try to get your time down to do time trials. Because otherwise, if you're on some B-level meet, that's not going to cut it for you. You need a race that's 3:55 or faster to really motivate you to do better. So, that was the women's 1500. Men's 5,000, they go out hard. They were really hyping up the world record. I actually think it's better when they don't hype up the world record and you get the world record than when you hype it up and don't get it. And 5,000 is a long time. And when I saw the weather, you said it was 80 degrees. I looked at my weather app, said 81. That seems hot to me. Now, I did look up the weather when Cheptegei set his world record, and I thought it was too hot then. The whole week, I was like, it's going to be too hot. 79 degrees when Cheptegei did it. And it was like a 68 dew point. And today was a 66 dew point, or maybe I have it backwards. It's pretty similar, a little bit hotter today. But to me, that's too hot. I know Cheptegei got the world record, but I would really like to see 55 to 60 degrees. So I saw these guys up there, but they weren't ahead of the lights. I'm like, who's going to push? The rabbits seem to be struggling to get to 3K. I'm like, who's going to push this? This is going to slow down. And it did slow down a lot in the middle, but it kind of made an interesting race. I mean, top 6 guys all ran, 12:51, but Hagos Gabriel, what, jumped the field kind of with 200 meters to go and nobody came back on him, right?
Yeah.
Is that how you describe it for people who didn't see it?
Yeah, basically he made a nice pass of Kajelcha to get the inside line right before the turn and closed the best of everyone. I mean, he's known for closing really fast and super fast races, and I wouldn't call this race super fast, but I think maybe he had an advantage over guys like Kajelcha and Aragawi especially. He didn't run last week in Silesia, and Aragawi, I was like, oh, he just ran 7:21 on Sunday. He might be in world record shape right now, but I think the dude was tired because we've seen Aragawi hammer the middle parts of races before, and when he took the lead, he just really didn't have any gas in the tank today, and it slowed. He got past, and it just slowed way down on that 4th kilometer. So I got to think that probably helped Gabriel a little bit, but yeah, no one. You need someone in a world record attempt like this. You need someone to push the 4th kilometer and not really care about whether they get the win or not. Just have to be willing to possibly sacrifice themselves. We've seen Kajelcha do that in the past. He wasn't willing or able to do it today. But when I look at why this world record attempt fizzled, I think it's 2 things. I think it's the weather, like you said, Robert. It was hot and humid, even though this was after 10 p.m. local time in Rome. And also you didn't have that, the pacer only lasted about 2K and you didn't have anyone pushing it after that. Got to unmute yourself, Robert.
Got the results up on the screen. I mean, the close was pretty good. John Kellogg's talking about, 25-7 for Gabriel. Actually, the fastest close of the day was Borrega, 25-5. Now, loyal listeners have been wondering, was I going to retire? Is this good news or bad news for Grant Fisher? This is bad news. I watch a race like this. Grant Fisher, he gets last in the last Diamond League meet, and I see these guys run 7:21. I see them run 12:51 with a 25-second close. And I'm just like, my God, how did he beat those guys in the Olympics? Like, how in the world did he? The biggest close today was Borrega. He had 25-5. He only finished in 3rd. The guy's got a monster kick. He's the 2021 Olympic 10,000 meter champion. And somehow Grant Fisher has 2 Olympic medals in 2024, and Borrega only has 1. Now, I think Borrega was only in 1 event, right, John?
Well, Borrega didn't medal in the 10K, but he has the gold from 2021. How did he beat them? Grant Fisher has one bad race, like one bad race in the last 2 years. I guess he was injured in 2023, but that was like his one bad race since USA's in 2023. And now you're saying, oh, how did he possibly beat these guys? Because one, he timed his peak really well, and two, he's very close to these guys when he's at his best.
I know
he's at his best in Salacia.
I'm just saying, though, I think on their best days, they're better than he is. And I think there's 5 or 6 guys in the world that are better than him on his best day, and yet he's got 2 medals because he's
Geberit and Kajelcha can't time their peaks right. They've based on their either they're not great championship runners, which Geberit used to be. He used to medal, or they get their peaks horribly wrong. Those 2 guys.
I disagree. I've got to push back. I've got to push back against that here. First of all, to me, Geber, and Grant Fisher fans, don't get mad at me. He didn't run a bad race in the Olympics. He ran for the goddamn gold medal, and he went for the gold. It would have made Steve Prefontaine proud. He ran a big race. He threw a huge kick out there, and he got run down and lost to bronze because of it. I think if he runs for a medal like Fisher, he gets the medal ahead of Grant. So okay. I don't want to say that Grant doesn't deserve a medal. I don't think he got his peak that wrong this year. So no, it's so hard because the Ethiopians put these trials way out. I think they put it too far out. If I was them, I'd run the trials on the last possible day. If you're not going to have any doubling, just okay, pick the 10 or the 5. What are you doing? These guys get in shape too early. But no, Grant's smarter. Like, he doesn't waste energy. He was right on the rail. He was in 3rd. He didn't do any surging. These other guys tired themselves out. And when it came time to kick, look, when you have 6 guys running the same goddamn time today, the top 6 guys ran 12:51. Small things over 25 laps, not surging, not leading, not doing anything, just sitting on the rail, letting everybody else do the work. You outkicked them, and he deserved it. So that's why he got the 10,000 meter medal. The Ethiopians, and it's easy now to criticize them for the team tactics. At the time, I don't think we're criticizing them for 10 effing years when Mo Farah was just gifted all these championships. We're like, why don't they use team tactics? Why don't they push the pace? Because it's hard to push the pace. Now, I don't like that pushing the pace with 3 guys. I would just do one guy, just sacrifice himself. But the problem is one guy pushing himself probably is only going to make it 6K and it's not far enough. So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I think Fisher ran a really smart race. And there's very little separating these guys, right, John? I mean, we see Cheptegei in LA get smoked by these guys. They're all very, very similar. This isn't 1996 where Coleman and Gebre Selassie are just way better than everybody else.
Right. That's exactly the point I'm trying to say. Fisher is right in there with all these guys. They're all at a very similar level. And guess what? 2021, 2022, Fisher was in the medal hunt and didn't get a medal. This year, he goes in there, makes a couple tweaks to his setup, trains a bit more at altitude, changes his training just a little bit, and he gets the medal. It's not like he's a drastically different runner than he was a few years ago, but you throw in enough times, and something's going to stick at some point. And I think that kind of supports your point there. Yeah, they're all pretty similar. This was Fisher's year.
Now, it was kind of interesting. Like at 4K, Mohamed, who ended up 7th in this race, 12:54. He's 10:23. I was thinking he got no. Oh, I guess I should go back to 3K when this race. They were 7:37 up front, and Mohamed was 7:44. He's 7 seconds back. And then he catches up to the field, but didn't have much at the kick. But it would have been interesting to me, if Jakob had been in this pace, in this race, does he go out with them? Or does he do it that one time when he won that Diamond League a couple years ago in the 1240s? Does he just sit in the pack and think, they're not going to do this, I'll let them come back to me, then I'll just blast them at the end?
It depends. Is he running for the world record? Is he running for the win? If he's running for the world record, he goes out hard. If he's running for the win, he does what he did in Florence 3 years ago.
Now, this is the type of race, a hot race where they're pushing the pace, that I think would be bad for Jakob if he actually went out hard. I think this is the one type of race he might struggle in, being a bigger European runner. But how tall is Kajelcha, do we know?
I don't know. I mean, he's tall, he's skinnier. Robert, you're forgetting Jakob destroying everyone at the 2022 Worlds when it's like 80 degrees and sunny in Eugene, that you just ignore that race for some reason.
Oh, you ignore the time of that race, John. Will you remind me what the time of the 2022 World Championships
I
was?
don't care what the time was. It was a championship. It was hot. You're just saying this is the kind of race he would struggle in.
I'm the biggest Jakob fan in the world. I just don't think you seem to think he can, win the 60 hurdles, the 60-meter dash, the marathon, the U2. You think he can go out and run UTMB in a 100-degree day and have no problem with it?
It wasn't. It was hot. It was warm, sunny, middle of the afternoon in Silesia, Robert, and he ran 7:17. I don't think the heat bothers him as much as you think.
Okay. 3,000 is not the same as a 5,000. I'm looking for vulnerable points. I don't want my boy to ever lose, and I just want to make sure he avoids these races.
Boy, I don't play favorites. He's your
I said my boy. I said my boy.
Okay.
John's one of the, he's one of these journalists that on MSNBC that thinks that they play it straight. Yeah, I don't have favorites. Morning Joe has no favorites. He's totally biased. Okay, in case I'm just looking up the time here, 2022 World's Championship 5,000 meters. I think it was a 13:40 race.
It wasn't 13:40. Wait. Off the top of my head, winning time.
No, I apologize.
It was faster than that. It was like 13:13, right?
13:09. I apologize to Jakob.
Okay,
John wins. John wins. Robert looks like a fool. So that was the 5,000. And then what else did I want to talk about? I was obsessed with the shot put. I saw Krauser had 6 throws over 22 meters. I'm like, how often does that happen? This is the 6th time in his career that he's done it. He first did it in 2020. And only three human beings have ever done this. Some Italian did it in 1987 when I think he had the world record. Be very suspicious of that. And then Joe Kovacs did it earlier this year at Prefontaine Classic. So rest of the world 2, Krauser 6. Just super impressive how consistent he is. I think he won with the 22:49 meet record. He's just amazing. Like I was looking at the beginning of his career, like when he won 2016, Olympics, we forget how much better he is now than when he was sort of like an NCAA athlete. Like in 2016, John, when he was kind of coming into his own, like I'm looking up his PB that year.
Well, he set the Olympic record in 2016. It's not like he was bad. He went from Olympic champion level to greatest of all time level.
Yeah, but I guess a 22-meter throw used to be extremely rare. Like only 38 humans have ever done it. And he the fact that he just does it all the time, we still take it for granted. Like a lot of these guys have to have a good year. They'll do it one year, not the next. But yeah, 2016, yeah, he did throw 22:52 to win the Olympics. But, his PB coming into that year was only 21:39. So he had that monster year, and then basically every year since then he's thrown 22 or 23 meters. So congrats to Mr. Shot Put. Tara Davis Woodhull also won the long jump. She's Olympic champion, but this is her first Diamond League meet, etc. So anyways, if you're just joining us, we're recounting the Rome Diamond League. As you probably know, this is a special edition of the Let's Run.com Track Talk podcast. Normally, our Friday podcast is for our supporters clubs. Join the supporters club today. Folks, you'll get an I Am the Pacemaker t-shirt if that's what you want. You can also get a Let's Run t-shirt. These are Let's Run's exclusives. I'm not going to put them for sale. So just join the supporters club. Enter the code GOAT50 for new subscribers. You'll get it for free. It's going to cost you $50 at supporters club. Actually, I'll let you buy it if you want to buy it. If you want to pay it $50 straight up, you can go to shop.letsrun.com, buy it for $50. Supporters club members, look, you get it at cost. These are high quality, $20 each. Go to shop.letsrun.com, enter the code Jakob, Jakob. You have to be a supporters club member. You also can put in, please, on the notes section, put in your supporters club member. I don't want people trying to cheat the system, John. I've gotten a lot of orders. I'm like, are these really all supporters club members? I'm going to have to verify this. That's fraud. I could have them prosecuted, right?
I don't know.
So,
I don't know about that, but it's good that we're getting orders for your shirt, right, Robert? Also,
yeah, by the way, I'm gonna have a new mock-up of the shirt. I didn't like the guy messed up the mock-up, so check over the weekend. I haven't even put it out yet. I've only announced it on the podcast, and I had like a bunch of orders.
Robert,
so, anyways,
but while we're doing the podcast, I've pulled up a Peacock stream. The World Juniors right now is going on. They've got 200 meters to go in the women's 800 meter final. Sarah Moraa, who is cousin of Mary Moraa, is leading over Australia.
Cousin.
Claudia Hollingsworth. I was told it was sister at the trials.
Yeah.
Now it's cousin. I don't know. I've seen cousin a lot of places recently. Sophia Guerrero of Harvard, though, is in third place. She's going for the bronze medal here with 100 to go. So, it's getting exciting. She's right there for the win, man. She could get the silver.
Who's she? You're not referring to
Guerrero, sorry, the American. Okay, Sarah Morale got the win. Claudia Hollingsworth second, but Alex Gibby's big year continues. Got a World Junior bronze medalist, Sophia Guerrero of the United States in the 800 meters. This
is the meet, by the way, that we were going to skip because Max Siegel said it was unsafe or something, made up some excuse. And I'm kind of upset, like we didn't enter. They said the time of the year, so we didn't enter any distance runners. I guess the college coaches don't want to let their runners run the 3,000 because it might mess up their cross country season. I guess I could kind of see that.
That's lame. Like, it's going to be most of these people on this team aren't going to be competing for the NCAA title this fall. If you're not letting them run, this might be their only chance to represent the U.S. I feel like it's kind of lame if college coaches are blocking them.
I kind of agree. Now, this is amazing. Someone on this podcast may have started a thread under an anonymous name. Titled poster under the name of "Where's the U.S. Pride?" says USA does it again. U.S. forfeits mixed gender 4x4s at World Juniors.
They didn't forfeit.
Okay, I'll admit it, John. I wrote this.
You know what happened, Robert?
I'm reading this. It says I wrote the pro stars ignore this. The pro stars ignore the mixed gender event. That pisses me off. Why didn't we enter a team at World Juniors? This is pathetic. The first post. I'm going to check this out to see if this is a lie.
Robert, you got to back off the mic a little bit, please, to make sure the audio quality is higher. The
first post says, I'm an athlete. I'm a coach with an athlete on the under 20 roster. I'm not there myself. Oh, so I can't look it up. Apparently, the athletes were taken to the track, warmed up, put their spikes on with every intention of running. A team was set, plus alternates. Then 10 minutes before call time, the staff came and told them they weren't actually ever entered in the mixed relay. Not making this up. Bravo, bravo, bravo. Now, I know John won't put this on Max Siegel. He'll say this is beneath him to actually figure this out, but that's just so embarrassing. That's true. It's so pathetic. I'm going to actually look up to see where this coach. Wow. I can't reveal where this IP address is coming, John, because it's from a very random state. Do we have anyone on the 4x4 team from a very random state?
Robert, I don't want you speculating about people's IP addresses or whatever, but no, it's inexcusable for the U.S. not to enter a team. What the word on the message board was that they didn't meet the entry deadline and were scrambling to try to enter a team, and that's why they wanted to have them warm up to see if they could get World Athletics to listen to them, and they didn't do it. Like, that's who all these administrators and stuff. This is one of your jobs, or the coaches that are selected for these national teams. Your job is to enter the team, and they didn't do it. That's pretty absurd to me that the U.S. didn't have a team. They would have been favored for one of the medals, I assume. So that's unfortunate. But the other thing I wanted to talk about, that women's 800 at World Juniors, this is why I love World Juniors, is because the Ethiopian girl who was in, I think, lane 1 or lane 2, when you hit the brake, instead of just staying on the rail and running the shortest distance, she starts drifting to the outside and trying to pass everyone. Meanwhile, everyone else, no one's crashing in. The whole lane 1 is just wide open. I'm just like, oh my God, this is just tactical. It's ridiculous. But at the same time, it's what makes this meet fascinating, because you'll see tactical errors that you really wouldn't see at the professional level in any of these races. So, yeah, it's going to be fun. We still got a couple fun finals to come. Cam Myers in the 1500 tomorrow. That should be a good one.
So there you folks, if you're watching live on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you can see the picture now. I am the Pacemaker t-shirt. It's got front and back. It's got the hem tag. On the back it says, John, what's the name of the song?
Ingen Bjort. Or sorry, I should have memorized it by now. Nobody does it better. Ingen den Gjort. I need to look that up.
Anyways, go to shop.letsrun.com if you want the shirt. Go to run.com, subscribe, and join the
Ingen
supporters club.
gjort det bättre. Okay, there we go.
I love the World Juniors and the high school races because people don't know how to race yet. It's more entertaining. I do want to hand a shout out, though, to I normally criticize Max Siegel for the lack of, he doesn't seem to care about track and field. He's not really a fan of the sport, I don't believe. He's more into race car racing. But, not entering these teams and whatever. But he is preparing the relay teams for 2028. We were very upset when they didn't originally enter World Juniors because we're supposed to have a home Olympics. These could be some of the stars. How can they got to get experience. And it was thrilling to see the men's, we can't expect the U.S. men to drop the baton in the 4x100 meters in 2028 unless they practice that in 2024. So I'm pleased to report we have botched the handoff yet again today, and the U.S. will not be participating in the men's 4x100 final.
Well, unlike you, I don't want to basically mock a bunch of teenage athletes competing for the U.S. It's unfortunate this happened, but Carl Lewis was commenting about this. He's like, look, I don't blame the athletes. I blame, you got to place some blame on the coaches as well. But yeah, it's unfortunate for the U.S. The very first handoff as well. It's like in the Olympics. It was kind of, the parallels are kind of amazing because that's the handoff they botched both times. All right, Robert, anything else? Do we want to talk Parves Khan before we...
Yes. So real quick, before we leave, this was a Roman Diamond League show, but two other stories. One, at World Juniors last night, Norway's Andreas Feld Halvorsen won the men's 3,000 meters. He's a 747 athlete. I think he turns 19 in 2 weeks. And, this seemed surprising. Like Jakob Ingebrigtsen never won World Junior gold. And, the message board is like, how come when a Norwegian wins, you make a big deal of it? I was like, because it's historic, people. And I thought to myself, when's the last time someone not born in Africa won a men's gold medal at World Juniors? And I went to 2022 Worlds and 2021 and 18 and 16 and 14 and 12 and none. I went all the way back 38 years. Only one non-African born man has ever won a World Under 20 gold in a distance race. And that was at the very first World Juniors in 1986. Some guy from Spain won the now discontinued men's 2,000 meter steeplechase. Since then, it was 73 straight for Africa. And that changed with this Norwegian win. So I think it's historic. And we saw something similar at the world's level. There were 64 straight African-born men winning senior level golds at Worlds, at the World Championships. Now, I know in the Olympics there was a few in between, like centroweights and stuff like that. And now this is starting to change. Like the Norwegian guy wins the 3,000. We might have an Australian win the 1,500. And the question is why? So I think that there's two interesting theories, or three really. One, I do think that there was a lot of age cheating in the past. It's much, people in Africa didn't used to have birth certificates. They could look the other way, whatever. I think that the AIU is cutting down on that more. So I think there's probably less age cheating now than in the past. Two, drug testing. I mean, I do think that's a factor. We've seen a lot of positive tests from Kenya and stuff like that. And then, John, you had this third reason, and I think this is probably most prominent this year. They got rid of the 10,000 at World Juniors. So now they have a 5,000 and a 3,000, which are very similar events. And I'm not sure why they're not doubling these athletes. The best 5,000 guy doesn't also run the 3,000. But like Kenya had two 13:05 guys in the 5,000. And then their two guys in the 3,000 were 13:56, 13:57 athletes. So I think that the field has been watered down a little bit. It seemed that like the field in the 5,000 was a much higher quality field. But this Norwegian kid is quite talented. I mean, he was the number one seed. It wasn't that big of a shock. He's run 7:47, which is certainly better than 13:56, even if that's now at altitude, that's pretty impressive for a Kenyan. But congrats to him. he's a good runner, and I think it's interesting. We've seen the African domination sort of fade significantly in the men's 1500 and men's 5000 with Jakob. Could this be more of a trend moving forward? We'll have to see. But definitely, someone gets mad at me for pointing out something that breaks a 38-year streak. I think it's fascinating. Glad we did the research on it.
Yeah. Now, those events, that's from the 1500 through the 10K, or now it's from the 1500 through the 5K, including the steeple. I do think it was a good stat you came up with, Robert, and it's noteworthy. And I do think the reasons you bandied about are, generally, I think those are sort of the factors. You've got some great athletes from, like, sometimes it's just a freak athlete. Like, if Niels Laros was in this meet, he'd be the heavy favorite to win the 1500 meters. And he's from the Netherlands, which doesn't have a history of like dominant Dutch-born, 1500 guys. But now they've got two with him and Nielsen. So he's not there. Like, you've got to also remember some
that's
of the
the other thing
at this meet, Robert. Yeah, Biniam Mahari, the 17-year-old Ethiopian who was 6th in the Olympic 5K final, has run 7:33 this year. He's not running this meet, and Ethiopia had two other 7:30 something guys who didn't run in this meet. And is that related to the age cheating thing? I don't know for sure, but they're officially their ages, they're eligible, and they did not compete. So that's another thing. But like you said, this Norwegian guy, Halvorsen, he ran fantastic. 7:47 at age 17. That's really, really good. So
yeah, but
definitely a big win for him.
Yeah, I forgot about the other options. There's really 4 options. Just a lot of the top talent's not here. I mean, I forgot Niels Loris he's 19. He could have run this meet. He doesn't turn 20 till April, so he could have won. Mohari's a 26:30 something guy, right? 26:40. I mean, he could have wiped the 4 of these guys, even probably in the 3000. So, yeah, I guess it probably deserves an asterisk because if they all show up, he's probably 5th.
Yeah,
but
do the best talents always show up every year at World Juniors? I mean, this can't be.
Well, that's the thing.
It didn't show up.
But and the other thing that doesn't make sense is we're assuming it's age cheating. I do think maybe the Africans just mature at an earlier age than the Americans, but because people say, oh, there's no way that Cheptegei could have run that 28-minute 10K when he was 15 or whatever it was, or there's no way Haile Gebrselassie was that good at that age, or Eliud Kipchoge. Well, if Eliud Kipchoge wasn't, when did Paris Worlds 2003? How old was he supposedly? 18, 17. Well, he's still running like 2 or 3 marathons 21 years later. So which is it? Is he running a 202 marathon at age 45, or was he overage back then? So, it's just people do develop at different ages, etc. But a lot of times, I mean, historically, particularly on the men's side, the giant talents. Usain Bolt was a dominant figure at World Juniors. Barrega's won this meet. Like, a lot of these guys are stars at this stage, and then move on afterwards. All right, we're going to probably be over an hour now in the live show, and we cut off the silence a little bit less. One last thing, Parves Khan. This is another devastating blow for Jonathan Gull. This one, John says he doesn't have favorites. This was one of John's favorite runners. I was at these meets. He loved this guy. He put his necklace in his mouth, and he'd always kick from way far behind. We'd never seen a distance runner really from India run in the NCAA level. This guy was SEC champion in the mile as a freshman, SEC champion in the 1500. Big kick. Didn't he made the final indoors in the mile. Didn't make it outdoors in the 1500, but was kind of an exciting guy. India's got so many people that he could have been kind of a big star, even if he's just also ran at the world level. And he tests positive. He's tested positive for EPO at the Indian National Championships. Huge message board thread on this. Probably up to 10 pages now. It was 8 when we started the show. People are talking about this. There's a lot of jealous coaches, so a lot of people obviously. I always say any thread that involves a U.S. college coach, there's a lot of people coaching at lower level D2, D3, lower level D1s that would love to have the jobs, and they don't. Yeah, to rise to the top of the D1 level, you kind of have to be a salesman. There's kind of a used car aspect to some of it. People are jealous, and people are just like slamming the Florida coach now, saying Will Palmer's a doping coach. We don't know that. That's absurd. I really don't think that. But by the way, there was an ex-Alabama runner where he was coaching before that has tested positive for EPO, but she was there like 5 years ago, so I don't know if he was actually there then. But I don't know. Like, I hadn't thought of a bigger a lot of people are trying to make this bigger and say, what does this impact Parker Valby? Now, Parker Valby's on the college team. She has the same coach. But do I think there's systematic doping in the Florida Disney team? No, that was not the thing that jumped to my mind at all. To me, the much more obvious explanation to this, and people fairly are asking, like, if you're a shoe exec, would this make you a little bit more hesitant to give Parker Valby a ton of money? Yes or no? And it wouldn't me, because I would put like either performance stipulations in there or drug testing stipulations in there or whatever. But to me, the more obvious, John, explanation to this is simple. Like, if I was a college coach and somebody approached me from India now, I would just assume they're doping. I really would. And it would just be like no different than what I would have thought if a Russian woman wanted to run for me 10 years ago. I would assume almost 100% of the Russians are doping. And people say, how dare you, Rojo, that's racist. We had an article out. There was an article this year, like the drug testers showed up at some Indian meet and like people were jumping over the fence. Didn't like 7 of the 8 guys just abandon the 100-meter final, John? Like, it was wild, like what happened. So there's a lot of pharmaceuticals in India. It's not regulated like in America. It's very easy to get drugs. And I think it's just much more likely that someone's like, he ruined his life on the message board. I'm like, he didn't ruin his life. I don't know his personal status in Ethiopia. I mean, in India, but I doubt he had there's a lot of people struggling to get by in Ethiopia. He almost doped his way to a India. Yeah. He almost got away. If he pulls this off and dopes his whole career and gets his biological passport with a high hemocrat value because he's been doping his whole life, he could make hundreds of thousands of dollars for the next 15 years. He almost basically, assuming he's guilty, he almost stole probably several $1 million away from shoe companies. I don't know if stole is the right word, but from other athletes. So there's a huge incentive to do it when you're from these poor countries. Now, I do want to say one thing. We've had a lot of EPO positives turn to negative, prominent cases. Bernard Lagat, who ended up being an American record holder. Peter Bowl from Australia.
We haven't had a lot. That's two in the last 25 years. But
that's too many for me. So
he was provisionally suspended after testing positive.
I should have started with that.
Yeah, provisionally suspended. He still actually hasn't shown up on the National Anti-Doping Agency's list of banned athletes because they haven't updated it since July 1st. But if you look at his Instagram, he's basically deleted all his posts. So something appears to be up. We'll see how this thing unfolds. I would like to hear, this is very rare with anyone who gets caught with drugs. I would like to hear how he's 19 years old. How did he come about this? But I think you're right, Robert, to point at that India has a major doping problem at the moment. And the other thing is the NCAA, the top athletes aren't tested very much. So someone might be saying, well, how could he take EPO and be using it the whole year? One, we don't know he was using it the whole year, but two, I could very easily see.
He took it for the. You think he took it for the
NCAA's? It's. if I had to guess, I would say he's been using it for a while. But it's very possible you're one of the top runners in the NCAA. He didn't even make the final at NCAA Outdoors. He just might not have been tested at all while he was at Florida. So I think that was one of the common reactions I saw on Twitter from some of my followers, is just people like, the NCAA needs to test more. And yes, I think it would be good if they do, because it's producing so many of the world's best athletes year after year. The funding's got to come from somewhere, though. So, and there's got to be a willingness on the behalf of the NCAA and its coaches to start doing that.
So, if you're listening, if you're watching the live show, I'm going to put in the chat a link to an NPR article about how all the runners ran away from the drug testers. It's from NPR, very reputable source. But yeah, no, I agree. I've always wondered from the drug testing if there could be a liability issue for like the NFL. I don't think they really try to test people, and they do test a little bit, and you get suspended for 4 games. But like, people could argue, hey, these people are roided up. They're injuring me more because they're on steroids. But yeah, it's expensive to drug test. Basically, I mean, I don't even, people want to know, like, I don't know how many athletes in 10 years were tested of mine at Cornell. I remember when Weldon was in college, they would kind of randomly pick like 2 or 3 athletes a year on the track team and pick. And one girl was on marijuana, and people were like, she took some concoction to try to flush it out of her system. But there's hardly any testing.
I mean, I ran 4 years in college about 10 years ago, and I was never tested once. Now I wasn't really good enough to necessitate being tested, but yeah.
It's kind of weird. Like, yeah, you just allow. If I was them, I would test like everybody that scores at NCAAs. But even then, you got to get out of competition. It's hard. Anyways, it's an interesting story to follow. We don't see it a lot, but I do think that doping. We had this Wesley Keating situation back when Electron was founded. Everyone thought he was on EPO at the University of Texas. We had Martin Fagan. Who was
an American.
He was at Texas, and then he left because he was at UT, and then he left, I think, because they had suspicions. And I've talked to. We had Martin Fagan, who was a Providence runner, who was dominant runner in Providence. Didn't test positive there, but he tested positive later. I'd be shocked if he wasn't doping at Providence because he was so good. And then I talked to an NCAA. When this coach retires, I'd love to have them on the podcast. They've got so many stories. But I told John this a few weeks ago off air. I was like, I talked to a coach. He or she told me, yeah, I didn't run a runner one time at NCAAs. I just thought what they were doing in practice didn't make any sense. I thought they were an EPO. So it's out there. It's out there, folks. All right, don't cheat on your wife. Don't cheat on your taxes. And don't cheat on running. All right, folks, join the Supporters Club. Get your I'm the Pacemaker t-shirt today before it's too late. WatchRun.com/subscribe. Supporters Club members, we love you. Hopefully Weldon will be back on the pod on Tuesday. Anything this weekend, John? There's no meets, right?
Labor Day. Enjoy the weekend, everyone. Enjoy Brighton against Arsenal tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m. And then next week, we've got NFL football. We're less than a week away from Ravens-Chiefs NFL opening night, Robert. I mean, that's the same day as the Zurich Diamond League next week. So fortunately, they don't overlap, but that's a big day for you. You've got Jakob against Cole Hawker, Kerr, and Ingebrigtsen. Kerr and Nagoose in the afternoon. And then you've got Mahomes against Lamar as the nightcap.
Wow. Could be really good or really bad for me. We shall see. I had something brilliant to say, but I've forgotten it. All right, folks. Yeah. Stay safe. Drug free.